Hello, my name is William Abel, and this is Common Sense. I'd like to thank GCD Network for helping sponsor this program. If you like what you hear here and you'd like to help offset some of the costs, you can donate at through Cash App at $Abel TX31. Once again, that's Cash App $Abel ABEL TX31. So I've got a couple things to talk about tonight. A majority of the time is going to be spent on the tariffs because I keep hearing about the tariffs. A lot of people freaking out about it. I'm going to explain how all of this is going to actually work out in the long run and benefit us here in the United States for a change, because all too often we've benefited other countries. Go into how these other countries have been benefiting and why these tariffs are going to hurt these other countries more so than us. So let me just go ahead and get started on that right now. So after World War II, tariffs with Europe, we allowed them to go ahead and hit us with high tariffs, and it was partly due to help them get their economy and everything back on track, because after the war, a lot of the European countries, their militaries were depleted, their money was depleted. I mean, they were just a mess. That's also part of the reason why we formed NATO. It was to go ahead and provide military coverage and help them while they rebuilt their economies and rebuilt their militaries. The problem is that was 1945. We're now in 2025. About 80 years have passed, and Europe has been taking advantage of it. We're still paying high tariffs to send any of our goods there, while they're paying very low tariffs. The problem with that is we hit up until 2018, we hit our businesses, American businesses, with 38% corporate tax rate. When they're sending, we got foreign countries sending goods into the U.S. and they're only paying 1.8 or 1.6% tariffs, 2% tariffs, they can go ahead and undercut anything the American businesses can do, especially when you're talking about like China and places where they use the child labor. They use the cheap and child labor in these countries, so they pay them pennies on the dollar. And then when they send the goods over to the U.S., they're only paying a 1.6% tariff. So there's very little overhead costs for them, to send stuff over here. Most American businesses, first off, you have the 38% corporate tax rate. You got to pay them a livable wage. You have at least a minimum wage, but then you also have the unions, which will go ahead and increase the price even higher, and the companies still have to make a profit. So in order to make a profit, they have to go ahead and price their goods at a way higher rate than what we see in China and everything. Well, a lot of American businesses realize this, and they realize, hey, we can be an American company, but we can go ahead and get all the manufacturing and everything done in China, ship it over to the U.S., pay a very small tariff rate, and we can make a killing. That's why companies such as some of the big ones, Apple, Wayfair, you also have Nike, they all go ahead and they have all their manufacturing plants overseas, mostly in China. Well, the thing with the tariffs is when you go ahead and you throw the tariffs on, that forces them to go ahead and pay more to go ahead and ship it into the U.S. And realistically, if we decrease, like Trump did in 2018, decrease the corporate tax rate, because now it's at 21%. It's been there since 2018. It becomes a lot more easy just to do business and do the manufacturing here in the United States, which will bring back jobs, which will bring back good paying factory jobs, manufacturing jobs, and we can actually start making stuff in the United States again. If you go out to your local Walmart or any local store in your area, you'll see that just about everything there is made in Taiwan, made in China, made, everywhere else, made in Hong Kong, everywhere else but the United States. And even things made in the United States, a lot of the parts are manufactured elsewhere in the world. This will go ahead and help that. But what this will also do is, as I'm sure many people have seen, the stock market start tanking. It's been going on a steady decline for about 2 days or several days now. And when the stock market tanks like that, a lot of times what happens is they'll go ahead and decrease the interest rates. And when they do that, right now we're running about a $2 trillion deficit every year. They lower the interest rate, we can refinance the debt we have, the $36 trillion, get a lower interest rate, which will mean we pay less on the interest every year on our debt, which, give me a second, I'll bring up the exact numbers of how much we're currently paying on our debt. All right, here we go. So, interest on debt right now is over $1 trillion. It's 1,016,000,000,000, or I'm sorry, yeah, 1,016,399,000,000, or $900,000. That's how much interest we pay on it. So we get the interest rates lower down, we can go ahead and we can take the interest rates, refinance the debt we have, get a lower interest rate, pay less interest on it, which leaves more money for us to go ahead and put in on the actual debt itself to decrease in that. On top of that, if we bring back the manufacturing jobs and all of that through the tariff, which is the end goal, we'll have more taxpayers with better paying jobs, which means more taxpayers, the more money the government is going to get, which in theory, now whether or not Congress will actually go through with this and do it, we can lower taxes for every taxpayer, which leaves more money in every taxpayer's pocket. And in turn, they can go ahead and spend more money on the economy. The reason these tariffs are going to hurt all these foreign countries way worse than it's going to hurt the United States is because here in the United States, we have the biggest spending economy. People in the United States love spending in excess. They love using their hard-earned money to go ahead and buy luxuries. When you think about it, even the poorest people in our country amongst us, they are better off than pretty much 50% of the rest of the world. And we take a lot of things for granted. I mean, think about how many people you know that might go out and buy the newest iPhone every year. They got to get the newest iPhone or the newest Android phone or whatever it is. Think about all the stuff that we just waste money on every day that we don't need. Starbucks. I mean, do people really need to go out and buy an $8, $12, $13 cup of coffee every single day? No, they want to. They got the money, they do it. So they know that all these countries, they'll ship all their stuff to us, knowing that they're going to make a killing on it. And that actually helps a lot of these economies survive. And they're surviving off of our back and, off our hard-earned money. So when you raise the tariffs, they're going to have to increase their prices. So yes, some of the goods that you're used to buying, some of the things that you go ahead and get and you take for granted, the prices are going to go up. The stock market is going to go ahead and drop down. It's going to eventually go ahead and work itself out, and it's going to come back up. It's still not as low as the lowest point during Biden's presidency. We're still a far way off from hitting that mark as far as the stock market goes. But these countries, they know that they are going to make a killing with their products in the United States, and they're going to be able to underbid all of the American companies so they can sell their stuff for a lot cheaper. So we have all that, and realistically, like for example, China, the amount of stuff that we import from China far exceeds anything close to what we import into China. China has a lot of restrictions against things that they will not accept from foreign countries. We don't really have those restrictions for the most part. So we accept most of the goods from all these other countries. And like I said, they come in, they undercut the American companies that are here that have the manufacturing here and everything else, and they're making a killing. So we're making every other economy in the world rich while we're pretty much slitting our own throat. So with these tariffs, a lot of them, they went ahead and it brought the tariffs even with what we get charged when we go ahead and export things to their country. And they don't like it because they've been getting away with murder for so long. Now that it's starting to even up, they're getting pissed off. So they're going ahead and they're raising their tariffs even higher. It's going to go back and forth. There's going to be a trade war. There's going to be some hard times, like I said, in the near future. But in the long run, it's going to end up bringing back jobs. It's going to end up bringing more income into the United States. The money we make off the tariffs, because people aren't going to stop importing things to the U.S. just because we're charging them more. Because once again, like I said, our economy and our economy and our spending habits, every country in the world wants to import to us. Now, they may go ahead and be like, well, we're not going to ship it this anymore. That's not going to last long. It's going to be short term, and then it's going to go ahead and go back to business as usual. They're either going to go ahead and decrease the tariffs that they have on us, which have been unfair for years, and then we'll do the same. So we'll have to sit there and negotiate with each country individually and make sure it's an even trade. And if they have restrictions on things that we import to them, they're going to have to raise that. If we're accepting, an item from this country, then they need to go ahead and follow through and allow us to send that same product over to them. Honestly, I don't think it's going to last long. I think it's going to last maybe a month and a half, if that long. You've already seen a lot of the outrage from the world leaders from all around the world. And like I said, EU has been one of the biggest ones, screaming to the sky and everything else. But at the end of the day, they're all going to crumble. They're going to go to the negotiating table, and something's going to be worked out. Also, I wanted to talk about, so I'm sure you've seen on the news where people have been attacking the Tesla dealerships and all this kind of stuff. Well, I've received several messages from people asking me if I'm going to go out there and stand at the Tesla dealership. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not going to do that. Why? Because it's pointless. It's stupid. Even the Tesla dealerships are saying they don't want people coming out here doing this stuff. I've seen a couple people that are actually running in the race I'm going to be getting into here shortly in Congressional District 31 here in Texas. They'll go out there and they'll carry their M4s and try and do all this, and they're doing it for photo ops. They're not taking ammo. They don't have any magazines. They're just standing there so they can go ahead and act and look like a big shot. Reality is, if you have to do that, then you've already lost. It's a lost cause. So yeah, I'm not going to be doing that. I think it's foolish. I think it's stupid. Tesla dealerships don't want people doing it, but yeah, people going out there doing it, trying to get the photo ops, trying to make it seem like they're some, big, bad, badass or whatever. It's just not the way I operate. And, like I said, with the, going back onto the tariffs once again, with the increase in tariffs, that's going to increase the revenue the United States gets, which can also help us reduce the income tax rate. Now we're going to have to wait till it hits more of a long-term permanent rate. But like China, they had a 1.6% tariff. So let's say after everything's done, negotiations done, they go to a 10%. Well, then we can go ahead, look at everything, and we can actually decrease taxes with the tariffs, just like we did in 1913. Pretty much everything in the United States, all the money we spent, it was all came from tariffs. We didn't have income taxes. We didn't have the millions of taxes we have today. If we can actually get back, maybe not to that point where we can completely eliminate taxes, but we can get close to where we can go ahead and take a heavy burden off of the American worker and the American taxpayer. The one problem with that is if we learn anything from history, Congress has gotten Americans in general have gotten so used to paying all of these taxes they don't fight them. They don't argue about them. They just go ahead and pay them and think that it's just a fact of life, something we're going to have to do. Nothing's going to change yet. Well, if we start getting more money in from the tariffs and everything else, we're still collecting all the money from the tax revenue, from the income tax, corporate tax rates, all of that. I got a feeling that Congress is going to be slow to go ahead and do anything about decreasing the tax rate or decreasing it to the level that they would be able to, because they're looking at it like, oh, good, now we got more money to spend. We can go ahead and put more money towards this and that and everything else. And as when I go around and talk to everybody, and I always bring up that the government has never successfully ran anything, at least not in my lifetime. And they are horrible at managing money. One of their main responsibilities is getting the budget done every year. But every year what they do is, as soon as they take office, they go ahead and they run a bunch of investigations. And they'll come out, they'll tell us, oh, yeah, this person's corrupt. This agency's corrupt. They did things, outside the law. We're going to hold them accountable. Nobody gets held accountable. Then around July or August, that's when they go ahead and they start on the spending bills, on funding the government. End of August, they come back and they say, oh, we didn't have time to get it done. We're going to have to do a continuing resolution and push it off until December. But hey, we will have the spending bills done by December. Then around the middle of December, around the 12th, 13th, they come out and they start freaking out and saying, oh, the government's going to shut down. We're not going to be able to get the spending bill done in time, but we're going to go ahead and present this 1,500-page omnibus bill with all kinds of pork in it and everything else. And then next year, we're going to go ahead and get the spending bills done. The last time we had the 12 spending bills done, well, just the 12 spending bills done without using the omnibus, was back in the 90s. So we have been failing at this for 25 years. And somehow, when that's one of their main jobs of the Congress, we keep electing the same people to go up there and not do the job that they're supposed to be doing. It's getting ridiculous at this point. I mean, you got Nancy Pelosi. She's been up there since, the 80s? You're talking about 40 years up there. You got the guy I'm running against, John Carter. He's been up there since 2003, so you're looking at about 22 years. Mitch McConnell, and the list goes on and on. Dianne Feinstein, she was up there till she was 92. Kay Granger, she went ahead and had to be put into a senior assisted living home while she was supposed to be up in D.C. working for us. Besides, these people keep getting elected. We got to do better. We got to go ahead and start listening to everybody and anybody. If you're interested, you think that you can do a better job than the person there, get the platform. Get your platform. Figure out what you would do with the problems we face today and how you would solve them. And you need to get out to the voters and you got to talk to them. Once again, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I'd be more than happy to help anybody that's thinking about running for Congress, senator, any position really, with anything that I've learned throughout my campaigns. I've ran 2 so far. One back in 2020, and then I ran the last one, 23-24. Yeah, I'm getting ready to go ahead and run my 3rd campaign. But if you want to run for office and you need any advice, things I found that worked, things I found that didn't work, by all means, you can email me at william.abel, ABEL, .tx31@gmail.com. Once again, that's william.abel, ABEL, .tx31@gmail.com. Because the only way we're going to fix these problems in this country and start getting these spending bills passed, start going ahead and reducing all the wasteful spending that I've talked a million times about on this show. And if you somehow missed one of the shows I've talked about the wasteful spending, you can go back into the library and you can find them, because that's a big one. And, Doge is even shining some light on some things that I didn't find. You can also look at Rand Paul's Festivus list. He puts them out every year. There's been about 10 or 12 of them put out. But you can go ahead and do a Google search or a DuckDuckGo search or whatever search engine you use and find them. Just type in Rand Paul Festivus report. And look at the wasteful spending that these people in DC claim, they're shocked that Doge fanned all this, but yeah, they're the ones funding it. So if they're funding all these agencies, millions and sometimes billions of dollars, and they have no clue what that money's being spent on, there's a major problem there. It tells me one of three things. That tells me they're not really doing their job because they claim they got oversight. They claim that they're going to go ahead and claim they got oversight. They got the power of the purse strings. Well, if you're giving these agencies this money to go ahead and throw away like they have been time after time after time again, you're a problem. You are a major problem in DC. You don't know, which means you're not doing your job. Or they know, but as long as American people don't know about it, they're okay with them doing it because they're benefiting in one way or another. And I've said this before about these politicians. They don't really care about these issues unless American people start complaining about it because they found out about it somehow. A lot like the farmland being sold to China, Canada, the UK, Germany, Finland, and every other country across the world. If you notice, they were talking about it, I believe, in 23. They started talking about it a little bit, and they're like, oh, yeah, we're going to fight. We're going to get this taken care of. We're going to stop this. And then something else hit the news, made the rand on the news. That kind of fell out, and they haven't done anything about it. Now, you do have some of the state governments that have passed laws to go ahead and restrict the ownership of agricultural land to foreign countries. But the federal government hasn't done anything, and it's still happening. It's still going on. And I'm interested to see if the agricultural department's going to actually release the list again this year, because under Biden, they had stopped releasing the stats of how much agricultural land was owned by foreign countries, the value, the 10 most valuable agricultural land owned by country, and see if they do that again. I have faith that they will, but we're going to have to wait and see. I'm sure many of you have already read the JFK files and everything, or at least kind of skimmed through it and got a brief summary of what was going on. A lot of it is what a lot of people kind of always suspected. They ain't come out and say that the government was responsible, but there's enough there for people to reasonably conclude that, yes, the government had a hand in JFK's assassination. Realistically, you're just going to have to read the files and come up with your own conclusion based off of the information there. But obviously, the government's not going to go ahead and tell on itself and say, yes, we did it when, if they did it. But there's a lot of things in the files that kind of lead you to believe that, yes, the government did have something in hand with it. You had an agent. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but, he was pretty much coming out and saying that the government did it, and he wound up dead, I believe it was 6 months after Kennedy's assassination. So, yeah, it kind of raises red flags. It's kind of like the Seth Rich case with Clinton, when, it came out that he was the one who released a lot of the documents and everything from the Clinton side, and then he ended up getting mugged, and the muggers took nothing at all off him. They just shot him, killed him, and left him there. So, like I said, there's a lot of things that just don't make sense. But, like I said, we have lots of instances of the government going ahead doing things that the American people will never approve of. Like the Tuskegee experiment, where they went off and injected about 325 Black American men with syphilis. Then they went down and they'd see him and they were like, yeah, we're giving you experimental treatment. We want to see, we're going to try and help you out with this. And in reality, they were giving them placebo to find out what the effects syphilis would have on an untreated adult male. And that came out in the 70s. And you have Operation Northwoods, which is where the government had wanted to go ahead and have false flag events. So actual, attacks on American citizens, on American military personnel and everything else. Get it out there, having terrorist attacks happen and everything, blaming on Cuba so that we go ahead and could justify going in and attacking Cuba. John F. Kennedy was president at the time. He declined to sign off on it. And, well, we all know how John F. Kennedy's story ended. I'm severely disappointed with Pam Bondi, the Attorney General of the United States, just so people don't think that I can't be critical of, Republicans or appointees by Trump. We were told that they were going to release Epstein files, and the only thing that they released was the files that everybody had already seen already. Then they come out when they see the outrage and they're like, oh, yeah, well, we were just told that the FBI in New York was holding back like millions of files and we just didn't know about it. So we're going to go ahead and get those now. And then they try and act all big and bad and tough and everything. Well, your moment had passed. You should have done your job. You should have done your due diligence. And if you say you're going to do something, then do it. She also got a lot of slack because she came out on TV and she's like, oh, the things you're going to read, they're going to be shocking, disgusting. People are going to be angry about this. And in reality, when the files were released, there was nothing there. Nothing that everybody didn't already know already. So, yeah, that was pretty much a cop-out. I do have questions about her. I do have some questions about some of the people in the administration. Time will tell whether my concerns about these people are warranted or not. We'll have to wait and see. But another thing that I've noticed is here we are in April. And Congress really has not passed anything to solidify the executive orders that Trump has passed. And one thing that I'm pretty much sure is going to happen is they're going to do what they did in 2016 or 2017 when Trump first took office. As they're going to go ahead and try and take credit for his executive orders. They're going to come back when it comes time to run for re-election. They're going to be like, hey, we closed down the border. We stopped the illegal immigration. We did this, we did that, we did that. When in reality, they haven't done anything. And just like in 2021, when Trump left office, Biden came in with a stroke of a pen, got rid of everything Trump did. Why? Because Congress didn't do their job. Because they don't really want to solve the issues. What they want to do is they want to ride the issues for as long as they can. Because if they truly wanted to go ahead and solve these issues, they would have been solved already. And me personally, I will not vote for anybody who's been in office for, 20, 22 years or 18 years or 15 years, and they have not done anything that they run on every time they run for office. Because if you can't get it done in 15 or 20, 22 years, you're not going to get it done in 24 years. You're not going to get it done in 26 years. You're going to sit there. You're going to keep the status quo as it is. And then we're going to have to wait for somebody else to get in office. That's why I strongly believe that we need term limits. If you get term limits, people have a limited amount of time to go ahead and get things done. So one, they're actually going to work instead of just going up there and playing a big shot. If they truly believe in what they say, they're going to have to go ahead and actually put forth the effort and fight to get it done. And they have a limit, whether that's 8 years, 6 years, 8 years, 12 years, whatever the term limits end up being. The problem is Congress is not going to vote themselves out of a job. But it's something that we need to do. So if they won't vote themselves out of a job, then it's time that we, the voters, go ahead and start looking at other people, finding other candidates to go ahead and replace them in Congress. Because if we want things done, that's what we got to do. That's the only way it's going to happen. Because like I tell everybody, look back at the last 40, 50 years. We've had pretty much the exact same issues. And every politician runs on the exact same issues every time. But yet nothing ever happens. It doesn't matter if you're for the issue or against the issue. Democrats don't do it. Republicans don't do it. nobody does anything about it, because if they did, they can't run on re-election for it. They got to find new issues. They got to come up with new solutions. And they got to make sure that majority of their constituents in their district or in their state, if it's Senate, agree with them and want them to move forward with their plan, which means they'd actually have to come back to the district and talk to their constituents, which I've noticed with a lot of the areas I've lived in throughout my life, even when I was in the military, they don't do. They will normally come out, they'll do a big fundraising where you got to pay thousands of dollars to get a table to sit down and have a chance that you might be able to talk to them about something that you're passionate about. If it's an organization where it's like, oh, great publicity, then they'll go do it. The military, they're used as propaganda, and that's it. Because I'll tell you, throughout the 18 years I served before I was medically retired, not once did I ever have a congressman come down and actually do what they claimed they were going to do on the campaign trail. When it came to us, like in 2011, I was deployed to Iraq, and we were sitting at a outpost, and we watched the Iraqis fire rockets at us. We were told to stand down. The QRF, which was Quick Reaction Forces, was going to come and take care of the threat. Well, 45 minutes later, he finally showed up. They went after the truck where they were launching the rockets from. The truck went within the city limits, and they were told to stand down and let them go. So those were the rules of engagements that we had to follow. And one of the reasons why was because Obama had said all combat troops were out of Iraq. That was obviously a lie, but if we would have engaged them within the city limits, it would have got out. The news would have got a hold of the story, and then there had been questions about it. So in order to protect his political career, we had to suffer and just sit there like sitting ducks and hope that the Iraqis didn't hit us and actually blow us up. And the politicians in Congress, they were okay with it. They let it go. So, yeah, when they come out and they talk about, oh, we really care about the soldiers and we care about the Marines and the Air Force and the military as a whole, for me, it's a joke because I've never seen it. Same thing with the VA. The VA has been a disaster for years. It did get a little bit better under Trump. It was going in the right direction. 2020 hit, COVID, everything got shut down. When they opened back up, they opened back up worse than they were prior to Trump getting in office. Hopefully they'll go ahead and start turning things around again. But yeah, the congressmen, senators, they don't do anything to go ahead and fix it. Unfortunately, we got to rely on Trump and other presidents to go ahead and take the lead on that, because like I said, once again, Congress, they just don't really care about the military, at least a majority of them. I ain't gonna say all of them, but a majority of them don't, and they're really not out there fighting for the veterans or the active duty military right now. Well, my time's about up for tonight. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you have any questions about the tariffs or anything like that, like I said, feel free to email me. If you'd like to help sponsor the show, you can always do that through Cash App at $Abel, ABEL, TX31. Thank you. Have a good night. And as always, God bless the United States, God bless Texas, and God bless each and every one of you. Thank you and good night.